Lloyd Vance's Insider Football is back on 1029 A Game, Coastal Sports Digital Network. So glad everybody can be with us. We got it all figured out. I was saying to Kevin, man, I'm old enough to remember the old 2400 baud days. For a second there, I thought we were on an old modem. How you doing, Kevin?
Doing well. I'm clean shaven now. I'm ready to go back to the other gig. I'm sore. I'm tired. I'm tired of shoveling stuff. And I probably got more to shovel tomorrow because I'm still throwing bags of salt left and right. How about you?
I'm hanging in there. My youngest son, he came out there and helped me. He helped that old dad. I was dumb enough not to get the snowblower service, Kevin. I bought one. It's in the corner of the garage. I'm like, last winter we didn't need that thing, and yeah, I wish I'd gotten this service because I was shoveling and I was like, all right, and it was like a double shovel. You know what I mean? It was like I shoveled at halftime of the Denver New England game, and then I went back out later, and it was just like, man, is this going to ever stop? And it made me harken back to, when the Eagles made the Super Bowl against the Atlanta Falcons way back in the day. They had to shovel out the stadium, and we'll start with that Winter Blizzard Bowl as we talk about Championship Sunday. The New England Patriots beat the Denver Broncos 10-7. We knew Stidham would pass the game. Not early on, I said, okay, all right, this guy's going to play a little bit, but he did factor in. And then obviously the biggest story was the weather of this one.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is it's one of those Jim Nance's trying to play it like it's a blizzard. It's like, first of all, slow down, Jim Nance. We got some real weather going on the East Coast. I lived in Denver for 3.5 years. That's nothing to them out there. They're okay. But the visibility on the field was a factor. The wind gusts were a factor depending on what side you were going. You saw the guys trying to kick field goals, even though they were longer. I mean, it was definitely a factor in the game. But Jared Stidham, did he play better than I thought he would? Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he didn't play so bad. 17 to 31, 133. He had that interception late to the Christian Gonzalez. That was a big play in the fourth quarter. But the biggest play that he did have and was a negative. And I almost blame the head coach, Sean Payton. They called a play, almost getting sacked, and then he kind of laterals it slash, I don't know, intentional grounds it. And next thing they say it's a backward pass, and the Patriots get the ball right on the doorstep. They go in, at halftime, it was 10-7 New England, and that's how the game ended. So, you know, do you think if the weather was good, do you think Sidham would have had a better chance?
It couldn't have hurt. I'll put it that way. Looking back on this game, though, the big call, and once again, we've talked about it all year on this show, is the fact that Peyton doesn't go for the kick the field goal. They could have went up 10-0 at that point. He doesn't kick the field goal. He's at home. He has a backup quarterback. You can't tell me they haven't seen a weather forecast going through Denver that, hey, we might get some weather later on. Let's get some points while we can. That was asinine, and that ended up costing them the game, I think.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I was on Rich Q's show earlier today. He was like, "Well, he should have went for it. But no, you take the points when you can get them, especially in these championship type games. I've seen other championship games; they all seem to come down to a field goal situation, and you get the points, and then you lean on your defense, and that's what New England did when they finally got the field goal. They were like, "Okay, we're up." They were content to run the football with Stevenson, mostly 25 rushes, 71 yards. He had 4 first downs, and then they had Drake May, who didn't have a great day throwing the football. 10 to 21, 86, but he did have 10 rushes for 65 yards. That crucial touchdown I talked about was set up by that big turnover, and then he had 6 first downs rushing the ball. So they were content, and you know what, their operation in terms of their punting, their punter did a great job in those bad situations.
Yeah, the key is don't get the punt blocked. Don't fumble the snap. I mean, there's a lot going on with that kind of weather, that kind of pressure, getting that out there. I just think that Denver, I just don't know what some of the things they were doing there. I mean, they couldn't run the ball. It's obvious they couldn't run the ball. They just tried to throw those quick screens, and New England got hip to that. The one thing I will put out as a betting standpoint, as we like to comment on every now and then, there was a little Easter egg that was planted by Jim Nantz, who I just bashed on. I will give him credit, saying how hard it's going to be for New England wearing white jerseys, white uniforms, and being able to see them. But he was saying it while New England was on offense. My mind spins this. So when New England's on defense during this whiteout, Stidham can't see those guys out there when he's throwing the ball. So somebody might have live bet an interception, and sure enough, he threw one. So Jim Nantz, thank you, buddy.
There you go, man. And it's funny because I said to my son, I said, "It's coming, it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
This interception is coming." And sure enough, he threw it. And Christian Gonzalez, who I think they're going to in the Super Bowl, they're probably going to have to shadow JSN with him. Gonzalez jumps the route, and uh, that Patriots defense has a lot of teeth. They harassed Stidham. They sacked him 3 times in the game, and Milton Williams and all the other guys up front. They seem to be in his face quite often. And let's face it, you can't blame Vrabel and his staff in terms of going after a backup quarterback who's starting his first game of the season. We knew it was kind of mission impossible for him. I got kind of sick of all the memes and everybody texting and talking about, you know, this is a Nick Foles situation. He could do this. He's he can come in there and be that backup that rides the wave. Jeff Hostetler, all these guys, but not your first game in. And the thing is, New England proved going from 4-13 that they are a team that is worth contending. Uh, First time they won in the playoffs in Denver, though, because going back to the old Peyton Manning days and Tom Brady, Denver had been 1-4 in terms of. I'm sorry, New England was 1-4 in Denver, so this was the first time that they won there. Uh, New England very hot going into the Super Bowl, 6-game winning streak. They snapped Denver's 3-game winning streak. And what really impressed me was New England was 9-0 on the road this season. I mean, so they came in there with a game plan. They knew they had a backup quarterback, and they just executed.
Yeah, one thing I want to say as well is, especially being in the Mid-Atlantic area, there is a lot of New England hatred still spewing from people, whether it be the Baltimore fans, may it be the Philadelphia, the Pittsburgh, whatever you have trinketed up and down the Eastern 95 here. But the one thing I have to give New England credit for, and I'm actually going to my notes on this one right here, was it no quarterback has ever beaten 3 top 5 defenses to get to the Super Bowl. Drake May just did it. Drake May took out the Chargers, who were ranked number 5, the Texans, who were ranked number 1, and the Broncos that were ranked number 2. So for that to happen, I mean, you got to give a little credit to New England where it's due.
You do, and it's funny, Kevin, because I was on Rich's show, and Nate was texting in, and he was talking about, number one, he goes, Lloyd Vance doesn't know ball, et cetera.
Oh, man.
He's trolling me,
Wow.
which is funny. But then he's like, they had the easiest road to the Super Bowl. And I said, well, hold on. They beat the Texans, as you said. The Texans are pretty good. The Chargers had a nice season. They beat them. And then going to Denver, the team that had 60-some sacks, and a lot of people were questioning whether Will Campbell and those guys up front could handle that pressure. They did a nice job in terms of shutting down the Denver defense. Drake May I think he was sacked only 1 time in this game. So they did a nice job in terms of keeping him clean. And McDaniel called a nice game in terms of moving him around the pocket, getting away from pressure, and he made a couple big throws. As I said, only had 10 completions, but the biggest one may have been to Mac Hollins. He hit him on a big 3rd down play, and that kept the chains moving. And as you got to the second half of this game with all that snow, you knew this thing was over, and they were not going to move the football.
First of all, you can only hope to contain Mac Hollins. That's the kind of talent he brings to the game. He had 2 big catches, man. I'm just texting my friends. I'm like, you see Mac Hollins going off here? That's one thing Drake May does, though. He spreads the ball around. He gets it to a lot of different receivers. 2 games ago, he threw it to 10 different receivers. So, I mean, there's not one guy you can really focus on. Stevenson did a good job. He got, he didn't fumble the ball. He plugged ahead, and he ate clock. And that's what they needed him to do. Drake May, the intangible with him is his legs, is the fact what he can buy on the outside. And that huge first down that he got might have been the nail in the coffin for Denver on that one at the end.
It was. He shows a lot of moxie as a second-year quarterback. And all season everybody's been saying, "Oh, their schedule's been easy, this and that," but I think they've really proved their in terms of late in the season, getting it done on the road, as I said earlier, and just winning these playoff games. You can't say, okay, they had an easy road because
Yeah, and that's the thing what Lloyd was saying is you can't say it's easy for the fact why we're dealing with our technical difficulties is the fact that New England did have to dig out. They had to take down Buffalo, and no one was taking down Buffalo the last couple of years. So to sit there, go with your second year quarterback, and for them to dethrone Buffalo and go and run that gauntlet, basically say what you want to. There are no easy games, no easy divisions, no easy championships in the conference in the NFL. So New England deserves a lot of credit.
yeah, I agree with you, and I think you know enough with their schedule, and it's funny because they've compiled some players that have been around team. Matt Collins was on that 2017 Eagles team. Milton Williams won a title last year with the Philadelphia Eagles, and then you have Vrabel bringing that championship pedigree as well. So they've gotten this group together in a short period of time. Gerard Mayo, no, that did not work after one season, and now they are really stepping up. So it's going to be interesting to see them in the Super Bowl. They're already a 5-point underdog to the Seahawks. We'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But anything else with this game? I thought one of these teams needed a Shady McCoy out there in that snowstorm. If you remember that great game he had against Detroit and Philadelphia, I think he ran for over 150 yards in the snow.
Yeah, that was a beautiful game right there. It was just a fact too. It's like you had the Eagles midnight green, you had the Lions with the blue in their helmets and part of their uniform. I mean, it was just a great snow game.
Yeah, me and my brother, I always remember we always would play football on the snow, and us and our buddies and all that stuff, and we loved that. And I think the players, some of them look cold, but I thought they were enjoying it. I thought all right, this is Smash Mouth football. I was thinking on Madden. I know he would have loved that out there, and all the mud and all that stuff, and those field goals, they had no chance. I know that one got blocked at the end. New England had the partial block of it, and but driving that through the wind and everything. You talk about living in Denver. I mean, you know about that, and in that stadium, it's crazy, Kevin, because I know a couple weeks back you were saying, oh, they're building another dome stadium coming up. I think it was Chicago. I can't remember. But
Kansas
none
City.
Kansas City. And
Yep.
none of the games have been played in a dome. Have you liked that?
Yeah, yeah, I do actually. To be honest, I mean, there's a part of me that was after last weekend and halftime, third, fourth quarter of this game, Denver. I was just like, all right, I just want to see some guys play on a neutral site. That's what we have the Super Bowl for. I don't want to see a Super Bowl in a snow game. Everything leading up to it, yeah, you got home field advantage for a reason. Use it to your advantage. You don't like going to Buffalo and playing outside. Go win your division and play out west or something like that. Play in the South in Miami, what have you. I think there's a huge advantage to having it.
Yeah, and it was fortunate that Bo Nix wasn't able to play the game through that leg injury, but I just had a feeling that the Patriots were going to come take care of business. As I said, 9-0 on the road, and they just seem to have that look. And it's crazy because already it's like Patriots fatigue. I mean, there's no Brady, there's no Belichick, they're the evil empire, and it's a rematch of Super Bowl 49. We're going to see and everybody remembers the Malcolm Butler play. That was the big play. Seattle. We'll see what they're going to do, but yeah, the Patriots get the job done. Vrabel, excellent coaching job. Robert Kraft, to his credit, him and his son, they decided real quick that Vrabel was the right guy. As soon as he was available, they grabbed him. So good win for the Patriots. They're going to Santa Clara in 2 weeks. Obviously, we'll have 2 weeks to build up this football game. And we're here on Lloyd Vance Inside Football 1029 Game Coast Sports Digital Network. We just finished talking about the Patriots' thrilling 10-7 victory over Denver Broncos. In terms of the gambling aspects, New England was given 5.5. That's what I saw the line at. So obviously did not cover. And the over/under was 41.5. Under at 17. I remember on the BYP, which is a betting show that I do with Rich Q every week. I said take the under in this one because I just had a feeling with Stidham out there. they were not going to put up a lot of points, and it came to fruition. So good win for them. We'll see if they can ride the momentum going into Super Bowl 60. On the other side, the Seattle Seahawks now 16-3. They beat the LA Rams in a shootout, 31-27. As uneventful as the other game was, this one was. I mean, if you liked offense, these teams were going up and down the field, back and forth action. And obviously, the story of the game is, and I'll wipe the egg off my face, Kevin. And I told everybody leading up to this game, he's going to blow it. He's going to make a mistake. He's a bum. But you know
Mhm.
what? Sam Arnold, maybe he's a lot like Rocky Balboa. It doesn't matter or anything. He came out there and got the job done. He played extremely well, free football, and drove his team down the field. Obviously, was leaning on my fantasy MVP JSN, who had 10 catches on 12 targets, 153, and one touchdown. But talk a little bit about Sam Darnold in this game.
Man, these USC quarterbacks love for me to eat it at the end of the year, don't they? All I do is sit there and try to bury them. Sam Darnold, he played incredible. Yeah, probably the best game of his career in a biggest situation that he could have had it. That being said, I just don't understand JSN. By the way, he was that first half. I don't understand what the Rams were doing. How open he was on certain plays. How are you not paying attention where this guy's at? And they finally seemed to figure it out a little bit in the second half, but they just let him run amok that complete first half.
Yeah, he was all over the place. I mean, and they blatantly targeted him over and over again. Remind me of the old TO days with the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, I don't care who's on him, he's getting the ball, and that's what they were doing with Jason. And you know, uh, Brady was a little annoying, but he did make a good point saying he just skates around the field. I mean, he does run very smoothly. He catches the ball with his hands. I mean, he's a big time player, and uh, he stepped forward, and then they also got Cooper Cup involved. He had, and Bobo even had a touchdown. So they're spreading the football all over the place with Seattle. The other side of it is the LA Rams. On Rich's show, he kept harping on and talking about teams going for it, not going. He said McVay made some head scratching moves in the game. Did you think he got out in this one?
I don't know, out coached as much as went down a different avenue than other coaches might have done. He, I mean, his team hung points. The team what killed him. Let's start it in beginning right here. The swinging pendulum of that game was that muff punt. That muff punt changed everything right there. And once you did that, now you're playing catch up. Now then it was just a shootout kind of game. That muff punt was huge.
Yeah, Xavier Smith, unfortunately for that young man, he had the huge punt return fumble that set the Seattle up on the doorstep. I think they scored like 2 plays later, and that just set the tone. And as you said, uh, the Rams kicked in the second half. Seattle got the ball, Kevin, and they just came right out and they scored right away in the second half, and they set the tone. And then the Rams were just trying to play catch up. Now, there was a key point in the game. A couple on a fourth down play, they went for it rather than kicking the field goal. They could have cut it to a 130. They went for a fourth down, but they threw the ball to their third string tight end, Ferguson. And, I think the play may have been for Devontae Adams, and you had Stafford come off it. But what did you think of that fourth down play we're talking about?
There was a couple of things, I mean, question. I think he just went to Ferguson because everyone else is blanketed. It's like he was basically out of options when he looked at Ferguson because Ferguson was covered pretty well also. I mean, that would have been a hell of a catch if he would have pulled it in. There was a time when the Rams scored, though. I thought it was a chance for them to go for two to cut it to a field goal type game, and they didn't do it. They left it at what it was. I think it was 24-20 at that point, something like that, instead of going for two to make it 24-21. And I'm not one for going for two, but I'm just like, this could play out that you might need this to be a field goal game. So I just think that they just I don't know. They got beat, man. They got beat by a better team that day. It's a team they have familiarity with. It was the third time they were playing, and all three times the home team won in that matchup.
Yeah, it's interesting, a rubber match between these two teams, and the thing is, Darnold did a great job in terms of protecting football. In the last time they lost, he had 4 interceptions in the game. That was in week 11. In the game, they won on a 2-point conversion. He still even had 2 interceptions. He led the NFL in turnovers with 20. But he did a great job in terms of just protecting the ball. He looked cool and calm in the pocket. Everybody's talking about, okay, is he the next Nick Foles or one of these guys that come out of nowhere? We'll wait and see on that. But it's crazy because I saw something online. This is his fifth team, and in terms of quarterbacks bouncing around and starting in the Super Bowl, yeah, Chris Chandler, who was on 6 teams, Darnold, who's been on 5, and Earl Morrall, who's been on 5 teams. So, can he shed this journeyman title and get it done?
I tell you what, Brad Johnson's another one you got to throw in that mix too. Some guy who's bouncing around a little bit. I mean, you got to look at it this way. Seattle, I think it was Puppet Brady called it out last night when he was doing his slobbering around all the players. But he did. I think he was the one who said Seattle had a plan. They let DK Metcalf. They got rid of him. They let Lockett go because they knew what they had in JSN. I don't think they knew they had what he put up this year, what he was going to do. But that was great by the Seattle management. With Sam Darnold, you lose Geno Smith. It's like we'll bring in Darnold. Everyone, including myself, after Darnold won 14 games with Minnesota, it's like there's no way he's doing that. That was one of the reasons I didn't even draft JSN in my fantasy draft because I didn't trust Darnold getting the ball. Yet I trusted Geno Smith getting Brock Bowers the ball, and I picked Brock Bowers, so that's stupid on my part. But the fact is, Darnold goes there, he wins 14 more games, and maybe it's the point, it's like someone needs to lock this guy up on a contract, and that'll shed that whole journeyman mentality.
Yeah, and then we talked about the PFWA awards were coming out, and John Schneider, their general manager, won our association's Executive of the Year award, and rightfully deserved. I mean, that team he put together, as you said, they changed it on the fly. McDonald comes in, and he was able to kind of resurrect this team after they didn't make the playoffs last year. I think they had a 9-8 season. They just missed the playoffs, but gets them back in the playoffs. They had a good draft. No one's talking about their defense. I think their defense, Rick Woolen, Ernest Jones, the fourth, who came over from the Tennessee Titans, they have playmakers at all levels. Their defense is their defense good enough to shut down the Patriots?
I'll tell you what, they're good enough to shut down the Patriots if Reek Woolen can pull his head from his posterior and not sit there and get a taunting penalty against the Rams on 4th down and then get smoked for a touchdown the very next play. That guy could have ruined the entire season, and you saw his teammates how they were chastising him on the sideline as well. It's like you can't have that in a game of that magnitude. It baffled me that he did that.
Yeah, and then you have Emmanuel, the nice young safety for the Seattle. He got it with them. He was telling them off. And it would like, what's going on with this? So, you got to stay together, stay the course. I think McDonald's done a nice job in terms of keeping this team on the same page. Their special teams are good. The Myers is a kicker. Their punter is one of the best in the game, Dixon. So they have all the phases going. It's just a question mark was Darnold, but he outplayed the player that won the PFWA MVP, Matthew Stafford. Now, in terms of Stafford, 22, 35, 374, 3 TDs. He was only sacked one time. There was probably a couple throws that he wanted to have back where he missed Puka Nakua. But do you think Stafford's coming back?
I think he's coming back, but I think this was the last ride on the crest of the wave. He started out the season without, we didn't even know if he was going to play. He was taking shots in his back. You didn't know what he was going to have to bring to the table. You're looking to see what Jimmy Garoppolo could have done, something like that, who you're going to bring in. So for Stafford to play this year, to play at the level he played, it's between him and Drake May for MVP of the NFL. So that being said, it's like, I think he'll be back, but I think this is the best that we're ever going to see Matt Stafford again.
Yeah, and how about the poor Devontae Adams comes over to the Rams? You think he's finally going to get his chance? I think this is his 5th time losing in the championship game. Do you think he'll ever get over that poor guy?
Nah. There's some guys, it's like, look, it's not going to work out for you, man. It's like you're already the number 2 option. When are you going to wait another year, get a little older, be a number 3 option somewhere else? I mean, you had a great career, don't get me wrong, but it's like sometimes, man, it's just not in the cards for you. And that's the thing with the Rams also. They got to figure out they have a lot of older guys going on. They have Stafford who's getting a little older. You got Devontae Adams who's getting older. You got the running back situation. Blake Corum was starting to jump in a little more with Kyron Williams, and you got to sit there and think about what you're going to do. Now, if you're the Rams, though, you have to draft the heir apparent at somebody, at some point, and this is a bad quarterback draft on top of that. So Seattle going forward, they should be the strength of the league. Them and the division, I should say, them in San Francisco, as long as the 49ers can get healthy, which they have a whole offseason to do. So they should be all right on that front. Now, going forward, also, you have the fact with Seattle looking at New England right now, you got 2 weeks of hype, 2 weeks of the same stories about the same guys that you're going to hear. You got every special about every story that anybody ever played elementary school ball. Talking about for the next 2 weeks, Lloyd, how it's going to be the same stories over and over again about Seattle and New England. How many times are we going to see the Malcolm Butler interception? How many looks at Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson going out there for that play? So everyone just hold tight for ad nauseum at its finest.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. They're going to talk about that old Super Bowl over and over again. This is a rematch, and Russell Wilson shouldn't have thrown that pass and all that. Well, you know what? It happened, and we'll see. And people are saying, "Oh, nobody's going to watch." There's this whole thing with Bad Bunny. All this. Well, the numbers aren't out yet, but I know the divisional round averaged 39 million viewers, so I'm sure this one will be just as high. I mean, do you really think people will not watch Super Bowl?
No, everyone's going to watch Super Bowl. You realize that every other commercial, it seems like on TV, is a gambling commercial. Yeah, America's going to be watching the Super Bowl in one way or another, and it's the same thing like it always was. For the next day, when everyone goes to work, people that don't watch football, they want to know what everyone's talking about. So if you don't watch the halftime show, if you don't watch the Super Bowl, you're going to be out of the loop. Everyone wants to be in the loop a little bit, so people will watch.
Yeah, and the big G word, gambling, and everybody's going to have their grids out. To get the numbers, and like, all right. I still remember my mom won one time. My dad had a football club; they all watched the games, and she won the she won the Super Bowl box. You know what I mean? It was even funny. And then my dad's like, I cannot believe that just happened, and everybody. But you never know what the score. I'll never forget, Kevin. It was the Niners Super Bowl. I had the box 6-0, and they had extra point. They won 55-10. I think it was Denver who they destroyed in that game. 55-10. I was like, oh my God, I could have won all the money in the pool. So it's just crazy. Should have learned early. Don't put down, man. Don't put down that the house always wins.
I still remember the one. I've hit a few. I hit one last year actually, but it's all about hitting the final score, the halftime one. There's different money increments,
Yeah.
and I did hit the third quarter one last year. I also, for some reason, when the Eagles are in the Super Bowl, I hit a block. That first quarter of the Patriots and the Eagles Super Bowl in 2017, I need the Eagles get the touchdown. For me to win the block, I need Jake Elliott to miss an extra point. And I'll be damned he missed the extra point. So thank you, Jake Elliott, right there.
Oh wow.
Eagles hit that block.
See that? He knew. He knew. He knew Philly Kevin needed a payday as well as a Super Bowl victory. Got it done. Speaking of Jake Elliott, does he come back with the Philadelphia Eagles? I mean, they got a lot of things they're going to need to work on this offseason. I know we do an Eagles centric show sometimes because we have a lot of friends and family that are Eagles people. I mean, that's a big question mark area for the Philadelphia Eagles.
I tell you what, you have like 8 months, less than 8 months, pretty much till the beginning of the first game of the season. You can't tell me you can't find anyone better than Jake Elliott in a 7 to 8 month stretch right here. Jake Elliott's done. Like I've said before, it's like bring him back in 5, 10 years. Everyone claps. Thanks for all the memories. Thanks for the championships. But as far as his career going forward, he is done. I mean, if anything, you might see him go to a dome team like Morton and Gary Anderson did at the end of their careers, try to make it last a little longer. But as being an outdoor kicker, I think he's done. He's done.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you, and that's one of the things the Eagles are going to work on this offseason. And this is a good segue right into the coaching carousel because it's still spinning around. The teams are going to be in the Senior Bowl the next couple weeks, and the East West Shrine Game. All these things were together. They'd like to have their staffs in place. There's still 4 openings left. You have the Bills, Arizona, Cleveland, and the Raiders. I mean, The Bills seem to be the plum out of all those situations.
Yeah.
But I know Nate was very upset last week that they got rid of Sean McDermott. Looking like it's going to be Davis Webb, Grant Udinski, who's the Jaguars OC, Joe Brady, who's already there, Brian Dayball is in the mix, and then you have the Rams passing quarter Nate Shieldhouse. He's kind of come on. He's a big name, but I'm hearing he may end up in Cleveland. So, do you think it's going to be one of these guys, or I know Philip Rivers took his name out of running. Who do you think it should be?
I tell you what, Philip Rivers doesn't want to be around those kids, does he? It's like, yeah, I'll come play football a little more. It's like, you know what? No, I want to be a head coach. It's like, yeah, he's not adjusting to that retired life so much. I don't think. Uh, I tell you what, it's got to make you want to believe that it's either going to be that Buffalo job in particular is going to be somebody who just lost yesterday or somebody that's going to lose in the Super Bowl or even win the Super Bowl. The coach that they want, I think, is still in play right now and was going into this past weekend. So we'll see what comes out of that.
Yeah, and that could be Clint Kubiak, who's the offense coordinator for the Seahawks. A lot of people are talking him up in terms of the staff. I think Daniels, he's probably going to have to sit and wait. He had his chance a couple times and it didn't work out. So yeah, these openings are interesting. Uh, in terms of, yeah, I said Cleveland. They had a second interview with Nate Shieldhouse. He was with the Rams, so he lost. Now he's going to get his second look there. Arizona had their second interview with Mike LaFleur, Matt's brother. He could be the on the ends there. One that's just sticking out there is the Raiders. As bad as the Browns are, is the Raiders the worst opening out there?
Uh, it's not good. I'll put it to you that way. I mean, if you're looking about it this way, you need a quarterback if you're the Raiders. And let's see, you got Genty at running back, you got Bowers at tight end, Crosby, if they don't deal him, is with on defenses. There's a lot of work to do. I mean, the only thing that's advantageous to you is that the fact you're in Vegas. I mean, I don't, I don't want that gig, but I'd take it over Cleveland.
Yeah, yeah, I think I would say yeah, that's a better look than Cleveland. And but the only thing is you got Tom Brady there, Mark Davis, the owner. He's kind of meddlesome, so it's like all right, got to figure out what's going on. But yeah, you'd like to see the openings get filled kind of quickly. We're here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football on 102 Game Coast Sports Digital Network. Thanks for being here this evening with Kevin and myself. The Eagles offense coordinator. We talked about change coming. This is a mess. Nobody wants this job. And why is it that no one is taking this job? I tend to think it has to do with Sirianni. He's in the principal's office. Nobody wants to be the new science teacher with him looking over their shoulder.
Nobody wants this gig. Nobody at all. And you look at it, just break it down, take Sirianni out of the equation. So you have Saquon Barkley, you have A.J. Brown as of right now, you have Devontae Smith, you have Jalen Hurts, you have the offensive line that's there. You can't tell me nobody wants this job. All right, now let's throw Nick Sirianni into the equation. Oh, okay, now I know why you don't want the job. Nobody wants the job because of that guy, I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, and Jalen Hurts is there, and he had an inconsistent season, and he doesn't want to run the football as much. He wants to be known as a passing quarterback. Well, he's going to have somebody understands him in the scheme, and guys paid 50 some $1 million, and you got the NFL looking like the NBA in terms of the stars having a seat at the table. We talked about that last week with Nate in terms of Josh Allen with the Buffalo Bills, and I'm sure on Hurts, he's got Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie's ear because he won the Super Bowl. So we'll see who's going to take this job. There's a couple names still out there. Matt Nagy is still floating out there. He's not with the Chiefs anymore. Eric Bieniemy came back. Mike Kafka today went back to the. He's going to the Detroit Lions, so he's not going to be in the mix. They interviewed some guy named Frank Smith, the former Miami OC today. He was there, McDaniel, but what was he stacking his index cards? You wonder what he was doing. And then, yeah, there's not a lot of choices left. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I think AJ Brown, He's not going anywhere. Howie Roseman made emphatically clear he's a playmaker, and unless somebody woos them with a big offer, a first rounder, i.e., he's going to be on the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, you can't just give someone like AJ Brown away. It's like Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, they have to get on the same page. They have to get it together. We still don't know deep down what was going on. Sirianni, was it Patula with the play calling? I mean, I think there was a little bit of everything in that pot that really just turned sour. So they can get it together in the offseason. But once again, why wouldn't anyone want this job? There is something going on behind the scenes because it makes no sense to me.
Yeah, it doesn't. And I think a big factor is the offensive line. Are they going to say, all right, you got to retain Jeff Stanley? Are they bringing your own guy? And the offensive line is not what it was last year. Cam Jurgens had a down season. Everybody's talking about him. Mekhi Becton went to the. He's not played well, and there's rumors he may be on a free agency market, being cut. And the biggest room is Lane Johnson. You think Lane Johnson is going to come back, or you think he's going to retire?
Lane Lane reminds me of the last couple of years of Jason Kelsey, where it's like, is he done? Is he coming back for one more? And if I had to guess right now, I would say 70-30 Lane comes back for one more year. But it's just, is his body going to allow him to do so?
Right. And he had that Liz Frank injury, which is not good for an offensive lineman. And they're going to have to figure out a way to, you know, re-engage that group. Maybe it's through the draft, maybe it's free agency, but they're probably going to have to bring in some new guys. Tyler Steen, he was adequate replacement for Becton, but it just wasn't the same. And you saw that with Saquon Barkley. It just was not explosive as he was last season. Uh, Much quicker than he was last year in terms of the gaping holes and everything. So we'll see how the Philadelphia Eagles fill that OC position, which has just been hanging out there. All the Eagles talking heads, local reporters, the beat guys, I think the Eagles are in their pocket though. They're like, oh, no, this job's a great job. I don't know why anybody doesn't want it. And as soon as I'm hearing this, I'm like, come on, man. You don't work for the team, okay? Come on. But everybody knows that this situation is not good. In terms of Sirianni, say they put somebody on his staff, an established person, say like a Mike McCoy. He's a former head coach. Should he be looking over his shoulder?
Absolutely. If I'm that guy, I'm not comfortable at all because the guy they're bringing in is going to be the guy that's going to take your job in a perfect world. People love to go in house if you have some young guy that you're grooming, i.e., Mike Martz, get out of the way, Dick Vermeil. It's like they love to do that. So, yeah, Nick Sirianni. The thing is, you can't question the guy's record, how much you think he had to do with it one way or another. The fact is, it's how he's handling that locker room is going to be his biggest issue right now. And if he can't get a hold of it, yeah, someone they bring in could eventually take his job.
Yeah, and we're seeing these CEO type coaches kind of go to the wayside. When we saw Tomlin, he retired or stepping away, and you're seeing they want coaches that have a specialty in terms of the football. And it's crazy, Kevin, because it's an offensive league and everything. You got two defensive guys in the Super Bowl. Yeah, so
Yeah.
we're going to see. And in terms of another big open, there's still a general manager job out there. The Atlanta Falcons have hired head coach Kevin Stefanski, but they got to find a GM as well. They're looking at Ian Cunningham, who's Chicago's assistant GM. You have Joe Douglas trying to get back in the mix, former Jet GM, and Andy Waddle, who was with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Philadelphia Eagles. Why do you think that GM job hasn't been filled yet?
That one I have no idea because there are some possibilities with that team. Are they being extra picky? I don't know. Atlanta's not a bad landing spot if you think about it. I mean, you have something to work with there, but they better get it together because that draft's not that far away. You still have to get all your guys together, your staff. You have to sit there and get ready for the Senior Bowl and everything else. So I mean, time's tick in Atlanta right now.
Yeah, and it was interesting, Kevin, because you saw Kirk Cousins on what was he on the CBS pregame show?
Mm-hmm.
And he looked pretty comfortable in that seat. Do you think he finally retires after stealing all that money all these years?
There's more money to be stolen. He's not going anywhere. He's like, no, no, no. That ski mask is not retired for me to pick up my check. No, Kirk Cousins will be there.
Yeah, I think you bring him back, and Michael Penix, he's still not established, so that's going to be interesting. But yeah, I just thought that was funny because he was on there and he was running, his mouth and making predictions, and he looked pretty comfortable there. We'll see. They want to replace Matt Ryan, who's gone back to the Falcons as the team president, so he's probably involved in this GM search. And like anything, we were talking about this. They have to have the right fit. They have to have the right guy in terms of um, you don't want to have a GM and a coach down on the same page. So they already have their coach, but they need to find somebody that can partner with him, just like McDonald did with John Schneider. John Schneider did way back in the day with Pete Carroll. Successful situation. So we're here on Lloyd Vance Inside of Football on 1029 The Game, Coast Sports Digital Network. At the stat from this past two games, both decided by 8 points or less. It's been kind of a theme all season. These close games, the home teams were 1-1. We have one cover, one not cover. There was one over and one under. But we'll get to our favorite thing, Kevin: game balls and lackeys. Who is Kevin's game ball winner for this week?
The whole thing is, it's you can pretty much have to omit that first game. That's the thing. It was just like there was no one really. The weather was that gets the game ball for that game right there. So I'll have to go to the Seattle Rams game, and I got to go with Sam Darnold. I did it with Caleb Williams before. I'm doing it with Sam Darnold now. I mean, I changed my mind. I will come back at USC quarterbacks hard next year probably, but Sam Darnold, he's looking like he's going to win a Super Bowl is what he's looking like to me right now. He gets my game ball.
Yeah, Matt Leinart somewhere saying, "Stick it, Kevin." He's USC quarterback. But we'll see in terms of um, whether the USC quarterback jinx is broken. I'm going to give my game ball, since Kevin gave it to Sam Darnold. I'm going to give it to Jackson Smith and Jigba. I mean, Jackson Smith and Jigba was incredible in this game. 10 catches on 12 targets, 153, and a touchdown, and he just looked unstoppable. He even caught the ball that was out of bounds at the back of the end zone. I mean, this guy is just he's not that big, and he wasn't the fastest or anything, but he's just so smooth. I mean, he is a great receiver. Won the PFWA Offensive Player of the Year award, and he may win the NFL Honors One. That's coming up as well, and we'll see now. Um, in terms of awards, before we get to lackeys, Drake May or Matthew Stafford? Do you think Stafford's going to end up winning this thing, or Drake May? Nate keeps saying, "What did May do to earn that award?" He really hasn't done a lot this season.
Well, take out Nate's haterade right there for Buffalo to New England. Um, I think it's Matt Stafford. I think regular season you go by that, and Matt Stafford, even though, like I said before, he was leaking oil in December. Those months of September, October, November, put them all together against anyone else's, he was the best player in the league. So I think that's enough to get Matt Stafford the MVP.
Yeah, somehow I think they're going to give it to Drake May. I just think they like to give it to a newer player, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. But Stafford had the great stats this year. I'm throwing for over 40 touchdowns, didn't have a lot of interceptions, led his team pretty far into the playoffs, and yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who walks away with that award. Lackey, all right, I'll go Lackey first. This was a tough one. I think I'm going to go with Rams kick returner Xavier Smith. Not only a trip, pitch. I felt bad for the kid. Then they put Kyron Williams back there saying, "You're done. Get out of here." You know what I mean? So I'll give it to LA Rams kick returner Xavier.
Yeah, that was a tough moment right there. I mean, I don't know, did he lose the ball in the lights a little bit? Was it, he just took his eye off the ball, but whatever it was, that was a game changer right there. My lackey of the week, though, I tell you what, this last one came in today, and it saved Reek Woolen from Seattle from getting my lackey of the week because that was some bonehead stuff, man. You get a big stop, and you're going to sit there and chirp at the sideline. Grow up, man. Act like a professional. That's your job. And I love the fact his teammates got on him. But my lackey of the week has to be the NFL and the Pro Bowl committee for putting Shadur Sanders in the Pro Bowl for Drake May. 7 touchdowns and 10 interceptions this year thrown by Shadur Sanders, and he's your Pro Bowl quarterback. Way to go, NFL. You're really selling the product to everyone.
I
Joke.
know. Thank God it's still only a flag football game that I will not be watching. It's crazy.
No.
He is an alternate. I guess everybody said, nah, I don't want the trip. It's not like the old days, Kevin, where they got a free trip to Hawaii and everybody was like, yeah, I'll go. Now it's what,
Yeah.
in Orlando or wherever. It's just not the same. There isn't even not even a game. So it's yeah, I saw that. I was like, wow, that's surprising. They really didn't have anybody left. And it's crazy because I remember Vince Young making it his first year. He was a rookie that really didn't do a lot in terms of stats deserving the Pro Bowl, but he gets the nod. And we've seen this over and over again. They're down to the fifth alternate, you know,
Yeah.
and that's why I really talk about all pros more than Pro Bowls.
Yeah, it's a joke. I mean, it always has been, to be honest. And I remember that first Pro Bowl when they moved it from Hawaii to Florida. You saw a vast exodus of players who did not want to play in the Pro Bowl. It's like, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm all right. I'm good on this one. So, yeah, Hawaii was definitely the game changer right there. And then it basically became a glorified two-hand touch game, and then finally just no game at all because it was a joke. So, I mean, it should be like the Gold Glove in baseball kind of thing. You get the accolade, put it on your resume, but other than that, no need for any kind of game.
Yeah, yeah, but the NFL, they want something to fill that week in between the Super Bowl and all. You can only talk about the game so much, but it's like, oh man, what really you needed that money that bad? Now it's the Pro Bowl games. I'm watching, Jason Kelsey and a bunch of offensive linemen play kickball.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not watching it. I remember. I know every year I ask you, Kevin, you watching it? You're like, hell no. I mean, it's just like,
I tell you what, I watch a lot of garbage on TV, but I do not watch that crap. I'll put it to you that way. I will watch a lot of stuff that's dumb, but I am not watching that.
yeah, I'd rather watch. Back in the day, they had Battle of the Network Stars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where they, you get to see Tom Selleck versus Gabe Kaplan and all, all Heather Thomas and all them out there. But now it's just like I'd rather watch that than the Pro Bowl. They had the super. I used to love the Superstars competition, Kevin. You remember where they get the
Oh
guys
yeah.
from all the different sports and they go head to head. I used to love that one too. But yeah, the Pro Bowl, no, no thanks, man.
There was 2 of them from those superstar competitions that really stood out to me as a kid watching them. One was the obstacle course and Nolan Cromwell
Oh
for the
yeah,
Los Angeles Rams. Man, he's booking, he's making time, and it's like the hurdle, the high jump you jump over, kind of thing, the leap over. He hurdles it. He doesn't just try to throw his back over it or jump over it. He hurdled it from that. That stayed in my head. And then watching Reggie White do the bench press competition,
oh yeah,
just smoking dudes left and right. No one could catch him, man. It was unbelievable.
yeah. Do you remember Reggie? And he was like, they're like, Reggie does not lift weights. he just he clean and jerks like 600 pounds or whatever. It's like, he's like,
Oh,
thank the Lord. It's like
yeah. It was insane, man. It was just like they're
he's
just putting plates on top
insane.
of plates on top of plates.
It's funny because I watch the games with my sons and they have recency bias. They're like, was he really that good? Is Miles Garrett better than? I said, stop. It's like Miles Garrett's good. He's a Hall of Famer. I said Reggie White almost had the sack record in 13 games. Okay. And
Yeah.
he wouldn't, and they're like, well, how many defensive player of the years he got? I said, he used to not accept the award because it's given by Miller Brewing Company and he didn't want to receive it. I mean, he was just incredible. I mean, I all going all the way back to the USFL days. I mean, talk about Reggie a little bit.
Well, that was a thing too, and it's your job as a parent. It's your duty to correct your children when they try to compare Miles Garrett to Reggie White. That's job one. Good job by you, Lloyd. But yeah, Reggie White, he was just one of those guys, man. He was like, and he wasn't. I still remember when Derek Barnett came out and he broke Reggie White's sack record at Tennessee. They're like, oh, yeah, he broke Reggie White's record. Then when he came to the Eagles, was he a part of one of the biggest plays in the Eagles' history? Yes. Was he Reggie White? Absolutely not.
Yeah, he played like 20 more games probably than Reggie White too.
That's exactly it. So it's like you got there, and then like Reggie White was one of those guys, man. And it's like just growing up, being at Westchester all the time and everything as a kid, he sat around, he talked with everyone, he brought it when he was on the field, and it was a class dude, man. There was never be another Reggie White, I'll put it
Yeah,
that way.
there won't, and it's interesting because and he's been a solid Eagle, and you talk about the Super Bowl in 2017. Brandon Graham, where should he fit now that he's finally retired in the Eagles pantheon? I say retire the number. That's good, Eagles Hall of Fame. But some people get a little crazy talking about, oh, he should be this, and it's solid pro, but started a little. His early stats were not the best.
Till about 5, 6 years ago, maybe 8, everyone still wanted Earl Thomas. So slow down on Brandon Graham getting a key to the city. Yeah, Brandon Graham turned out to be a better player than I thought he was going to be. Definitely, he was a leader in that clubhouse for that Eagles team over the past decade. So, I mean, Brandon Graham, he's one of the perennial guys you're going to remember from those Super Bowl teams. So, yeah, I think maybe he gets a retirement somewhere down the road. Number doesn't get retired, but Ring of Honor kind of thing, that'll work.
Yeah, I agree with you. I say, what they have the Brandon Graham Day, and then that's good enough. And
Yeah.
he's moving to local media, so you're going to see him everywhere, and he's already getting entrenched with. He'll probably be on a pregame show or something. So it's yeah, he had a good career, but yeah, I would say Hall of very good for the team overall. So we're on Lloyd Vance Insider Football on 102.9 The Game, Coast Sports Digital Network, winding down. So, Kevin, as we start moving, I know we got 2 weeks of hype for the game. Seahawks, 5.5 point favorites, and the over/under is 46. Is that looking like? What are you thinking? Do you think
I,
that that's solid?
I think that line's moving already. I think when it first came out, I saw it at three
Yeah.
and a half, and now you get up to 5.5. And you're also going to have to look. This might be the time if you're inclined to be a better that you might want to jump in if you like something now, because the really big money is going to come in the weekend of the Super Bowl, and that's going to swing some point spreads right there. So if you're really in love with Seattle right now, you might go higher. If you think New England's going to win the game, you get it going up to 5.5. Even if you can get it 6.5, you might want to jump and grab New England now. So, I mean, it's definitely something to keep an eye on if you're inclined to do so.
Yeah, and I always tell people bet on a coin flip. I mean, it's 50-50 chance, and I always say tails never fails. Go with that, and just go from there. And another props, JSN. You definitely look at his number of catches. I think his prop bet will probably be about 8-9 catches. I definitely think he'd beat that in this game. What do you think in terms of Drake May and interceptions? It'll probably be like 1. Do you think he throws a pick in this game?
That's a thing. The pick's going to be tough because it depends who's winning at the time. If whoever's losing, that's where you're going to get your pick towards the end. Someone trying to force something in there. The Drake May the prop I would look at right now, just throwing it out there, would be rushing yards. Let's see how many they have him
Like
at. Is
that.
it like 25 or something like that? That might be something to hop on.
How about a prop where how many times they show Cardi B on the camera?
It
She's
won't,
this year's Tay Tay.
it will not be as much as Taylor Swift, I tell you that much, because Cardi B acts a little differently. Cardi B
Yeah.
loves the camera. She wants the camera on her. Taylor Swift tries to do the fake smile, not really being on there. Cardi B, it's going to be like, keep the camera on me. So, yeah, I'm here for it, man. I want to see it.
Hey, how about this whole Bad Bunny thing? I'm looking forward to it. Some people are like, I'm not watching this. They had this whole, Bad Bunny thing. Doesn't even matter. At halftime, I'm going to the bathroom. I'm getting something to eat. I mean, what do you think?
I think people got a lot of free time on their hands. I mean, if you're that disgruntled and upset about a Super Bowl halftime show, I mean, give me a break, man. I don't care what I want to be entertained. I don't want to. I don't care about anybody who's an actor, who's an athlete, a singer. I don't care about your, ideology, your political
Right.
beliefs, any of that. Entertain me. That's what it's there for. If he does a bad job, I'll let you know. But as far as what he thinks and what he believes, I don't care, man. He's a couple bangers out there. Put him out there. Let's move on with our day.
He ain't beating Janet Jackson. I'm just saying.
No, 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 no. No, no, no.
Men of a certain age will always remember that moment.
Mhm. Truth.
But we got 2 weeks to break the game down, and hopefully all these coaches will be in spots, and we can figure out. We'll start talking about the draft and the Eagles. The team we talk about the most. They have a lot going on in terms of free agents, and we'll see how they fix the situation with the OC. But yeah, Kevin, anything else before we shut down? Another great week here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football on 1029, the game, Coast Sports Digital Network.
It's just hard to believe. It's like we sat there. I remember going through the draft with you and everything else. We've done all the shows, training camps and all. Now we're down to one game.
Oh, thankful.
It goes by quick, man. So we got 2 weeks. We're going to enjoy this for as much as we can. We got the Hall of Fame also coming up. See who gets in there. So we got a lot going on still.
Yeah, a lot about. And then the NFL never sleeps, like I always. There'll be always something to talk about. But yeah, it's going to be. I guess I'll have to look at the Phillies and see if they spend enough money to catch the Dodgers. I don't think so either. So, but we'll see. But yeah, another great show with Kevin, and yeah, we're getting ready for the Super Bowl countdown. We'll have all the hype, everything to about Super Bowl 60. It is the Seahawks against the Patriots. It's a rematch from I think 2015 or something like that. So lots to catch up on. Thanks for joining with us, Duncan. Great job behind the glass, and we'll talk to you next week.